So I think most people that will come into this hangout, this is going to be their first startup weekend. So we're going to have a lot of questions on how long the pitch is going to be, who gets to pitch, how do we sign up to pitch, and then what goes on after that. This is Parker. Parker the Zal.
How's it going?
How you doing, man?
Doing really well. Nice to meet you. I think
You
I may
too.
have seen you before.
Have we? You
I
recognize the
think so,
beard?
maybe. What's that?
You recognize the beard, don't you?
I think that's what it is.
So Al, how long? Like we can get started on answering questions because I'm recording this, so we can post it to YouTube for whoever is late to the hangout, so they can get these the answers.
Sure.
So how long is the pitch? What's the time?
So the pitches since there's gonna be a lot of people. Essentially, the way it works is we'll all get together that first night on Thursday night, and we'll be, we'll go through a little bit of icebreaker stuff, get people comfortable with the idea of working through a pitch and getting it concise, and then we'll open it up. And there should be, we're kind of expecting about 30 to 40 pitches. So the limit is 60 seconds. You gotta, it's essentially the idea is you get up there and say, hey, I'm working on this. This is my idea. This is why I think it's cool. If you're a developer that has any experience in the education space, you should come to chat. And then once everybody gives their pitch, we'll let people separate, and then everybody in the room goes around and we'll give you 3 Post-it notes, and you go put a Post-it note on whatever idea you would like to work on, and then some of them are just going to wash out, right? They're not going to get nobody's going to want to work on them, and so those will go away. And so the things that, it kind of filters down to where the things that you wanted to work on, you'll have maybe 1 left or 2 left, and then you decide which team you actually want to be on and jump in there. So that first night is all about organizing teams and getting them behind that 60-second pitch.
Okay, and the Thursday night, I watched a video saying they got a bunch of things, or I don't know, they started accomplishing things on Thursday night, and the guys got out at midnight. So are people actively working with their teams on the project on Thursday?
Yeah, well, so I mean, it's really an exercise in lean startup, right? And so if you got an idea and you throw it out there and you get 10 guys and you're able to sit down and figure out where you want to, what your first tests need to be inside of this idea, get going on it, and especially if the kind of core fundamentals of what the product is you're going to need to build are going to be the same regardless, then you need to get started on that right away, right? So if I'm building, if my idea is something around a social network site, regardless of the angle that we take in messaging or the customer, we need the core principles of a social network site build, right? So it doesn't make any sense to wait till the next day to get started on it. You can just sit down and start hacking code together. Or a designer, I mean, you have your idea for the logo the second you sit down, or how the site's going to look, or what you want to do with it. And I'm actually really excited. So this is the first time we've ever done a startup weekend on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the interesting side of that is we do a lot of customer validation in startup weekend type stuff, where you're supposed to take your idea and be like, all right, is anybody going to buy this? That's a big part of starting the business. And so for the first time ever, we'll be, customer validation can happen on a Friday day, right? And so people can actually go hit the streets and talk to people and get customer feedback on stuff, which is actually pretty exciting. So hopefully, there will be a lot more opportunity for the business guys to play a big role in the formation of the startup than what maybe we've seen in other startup weekends.
Cool. Yeah, that's now. How does the customer validation part begin? You as a team just plan out hey, you guys go out and go talk to business XYZ and ask them these questions, or
so any business, when you decide you're going to start a business, right? You have your hypotheses, and you have your assumptions, kind of what you're building off of, right? And so that's the exercise you're going to go through. If I say, all right, so my idea, and I'll use an example from Kansas City, my idea is we're going to build a a conference calling app that calls you. So I go and add a bunch of my I add a bunch of my contacts to this app, and it dials out. I don't have to dial in. That's great. Well, so what are we wondering? Are we wondering, like, who's our customer? Who's going to pay for it? Is it the end consumer, or these actual maybe conference call companies, right? Like, who's going to be interested in this? So we need to figure out who's going to pay for it. We need to figure out how much they'd pay for it. We need to figure out, like, if it's really a pain point. We think it is. I wish I had this. Do other people wish they had this? Those kind of questions should be asked immediately so that you can define what it is, what the pain point is that you're actually fixing. And then, who your customer is. When they got to the end and actually did their pitch, they thought that their customer was the end consumer, but what they found out in actually talking to people was the consumer, or the customer for them, should have been the conference call company. So other, like, conference call providers should have been able to offer their app, white label it, that kind of thing. And they would have, that would have been had they had those conversations, they would have fared much better in judging. Like, it's just a better way to round out your company plan, what you're doing.
Okay, great. There's a couple other questions I had. Now, back to pitches. So the initial pitch, what content goes into the pitch, and how is it broken down?
Okay, so the pitch is, you're talking to your buddies, right? And so it's not something where you're going to have it 2 slides and 60 seconds to go. It's you're going to get up there and you're trying to convince people that, it'd be a fun thing to work on. I've seen everything from, hey dudes, I've got a Roomba, we're going to hack this and make it do something cool. That's my idea, right? I've seen from there to, well, I have this idea about, an app that lets you do X, Y, and Z. I think it's great because the market is X, and I think that it could be a really big deal. Who wants to work with me on it? It's not anything that we need to I don't know. It needs to be concise, and you need to get your point across, because if you ramble through the first 60 seconds and I kick you off the stage, maybe you had a great idea, right? Maybe it was awesome and everybody would have loved to work on it. But like, if you can't get your message across in that 60 seconds, you're gonna have trouble. So
right.
Pick your key main points, like the 1 or 2 things that really make it a great idea to you. The 1 or 2 things that make the market a good fit to tackle, right? Like, you want a big idea in a big market with a great team. That's what you're going for. And so talk about the market a little bit, talk about the idea, and then talk about maybe the needs or what you bring to the table or why it would be fun to work with you. And that's it. So yeah, nothing too mystical about the whole thing, but people can really screw it up just by getting up there and trying to tell jokes the whole time or something, right?
Yeah, it's maybe something that they should practice, knowing that they have 60 seconds. Maybe these guys who are going to pitch, they should practice before and make sure they know what points they want to hit, right?
Yeah, never a bad idea. Well, and it's especially awkward when the first time you try and verbalize a business idea, right? Like, we've all been there where they say, well, what's your idea? Well, it's like, we fall into that trap a little bit. And so maybe work on, like, just talking it out, because it's sometimes a little bit different for people the first time they try and verbalize it, and you don't want to, you don't muff it up because you can't get the words out.
Yeah, I've verbalized a few ideas, and it's at that point you realize, already what things don't sound right and what needs to change, or you just realize, wow, that's a really stupid idea.
Yeah, that's not the way you want it to go when you stand up there and 30 seconds in say, never mind, I hate my idea.